Hello and welcome along to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Hope you're all doing fantastically well on this Friday afternoon. Who would have thought we'd be doing a live stream in the daytime? It's normally on a Sunday, 8 p.m. in our man caves, but there we go. On today's stream, myself, Jacob Culshaw, Charlie Zazzera, and football cliches, and from the Koreans' finest, no offence, Mike, and no offence, John, Jason, etc. Mr. DCW. Dave, how are you getting on, mate? Lovely to see you.
Yeah, very good, very good. Just about recovered from our humiliating experience at the WD18 seven-a-side tournament. But everyone had a good day, despite our pathetic performance on the pitch.
Oh my god! I mean, the thing is, Charlie, we were giving the from the Korean lads a bit of stick on the mic, but it wasn't.
You were.
No, well, I was giving a little bit because Mike was in my ear saying you got to make sure that you're fair to all the teams. And I actually said in the pre-tournament predictions that I fancied the lads to do it. And I don't know why. I just had this sort of feeling. Maybe it was the full kit. I don't know. It maybe just swayed it slightly. Charlie, who's your favourites, by the way? I didn't even ask you on the day.
I think the ground staff. Scott had been bigging him up over a couple of DMs. So he backed his boys. They went pretty far, though, didn't they?
They were good.
Yeah, they did. Well, they got to the final.
Was it semi-final? Or the final?
Final. It was the Watford FC staff derby with Clevs watching on, who was loving it. Thanks to everyone who's watching live. If you're watching this back, make sure to leave a like on the stream, subscribe to WD18, follow the guys on their social channels. Make sure you check out Dave's stuff as well. The links are in the description below. Bit of a review / a preview today. So we're going to review the West Brom draw, which feels like an age ago on Monday. And then we'll look ahead to Preston as well. And then maybe just a little bit of chat about Tom Cleverley in his first few games as interim Watford head coach. Charlie, first off, West Brom 2, Watford 2. Do you want to maybe take us through the stats of this one, just to maybe refresh our memory, kind of remind ourselves of what happened in this one? Because it was a bit of a weird one. I felt for the majority of it, Watford played pretty well, and I was quite frustrated that we didn't come away with more than a point, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
What did the stats say?
We'll get rid of Jurgen Klopp, but here's the famous momentum bar. I think first half it was pretty even, but no team really edged it. You can see there West Brom had the majority of the possession, but second half I thought we came out brilliantly, and you can see the different attacks and the amount we were building to the 2-goal lead, which was great. And unfortunately, they pegged us back. But yeah, looking at the stats just on the left, XG, we got a better XG than them, 1.51, and I think we would have even had a better one. Asprilla had a really good opportunity to put Dennis in, which would have been a 1-1, which would have made it 3-0. He missed that opportunity. But edged the XG, they had a bit more possession. But then if you look at the shots, we had more shots than them, more shots on target, more big chances. I thought it was a really, really good away performance. Just a shame about those end goals, which just feels very, very Watford. But I think this season, away from home has been one of the biggest positives for us.
Dave, it was one of those when we played Leeds on Friday night. The only bit of scepticism I had going into Monday was whether we could follow up the performance we put in against Leeds. What do you make of Watford's performance on Monday, and also Leeds as well from the sort of bank holiday weekend? Because it's bigged up as this massive pivotal weekend in the EFL calendar. For us this year, it's not really holding any weight because of our league position. But sort of those two performances under Tom Cleverley, what did you make of them?
I was pretty encouraged, to be honest with you. The Leeds game was a really entertaining game. I think probably a fair result, really, in the end, just about. Shame we couldn't hold on in that game. And again in the West Brom game. It was weird. You say, you're completely right. Obviously, the Easter weekend is, if you're in the mix, or even if you're like down the bottom, like it's often really exciting in terms of 2 games in a few days. Big pivotal games often, and when you're not involved, when you're in mid-table like us, it kind of feels like you're sort of you're not really in the party. And Leeds, West Brom desperately trying to get the points to kind of secure their promotion hopes in automatic and playoffs. So it was a bit of a shame from that respect, a bit of a wake-up call and a bit of a reminder of where we are really, I suppose, this season. But on the pitch, I thought it was quite encouraging. The switch to the back 3 looks good, I think. Probably suits the sort of mix of players that we've got in terms of those centre-backs, and Lewis and Andrews in the wing-backs both look pretty comfortable, especially Lewis looked bit better out there with slightly less defensive responsibilities, I suppose. And, Dele Bashiru looks like he fits into that system quite well. Bayo and Dennis kind of being close together up top. Looks like it's brought the best out of both of them as well. So it looks pretty encouraging on the pitch, but it's still, with Tom being interim still, it kind of feels like we don't quite know if this is us building for something or whether it's us just tugging along to the end of the season.
Yeah, agreed. I think that was one thing that Clever's mentioned a few times, Charlie, about sort of the main thing he wanted for the rest of this season is for us as supporters to look forward to the next one. Now, obviously, a lot is up in the air off the pitch in terms of ownership level and board level, and a lot of it's out of his hands. But one thing he can do is get a team that's playing for him and a team that's playing with energy and intensity. And I think that's what you've seen so far. If we look at that sort of 3-4-1-2 formation, as we've discussed on the show, and as Dave mentioned, the team that started on Monday against West Brom, Batman in goal, Portia, Sierra to Hoot as a 3 centre-backs, Andrews at right wing-back, Lewis at left wing-back, Kiyembe, Dele Bashiru with Kone slightly further in front, and Bayo and Dennis. Is that close to our best team that Tom Cleverley can pick at this moment in time, Charlie, do you think?
I think that actually the Leeds starting 11, for me, I don't know if that, just from that first half performance, but and it's strange that because Wesley Hoot, we've talked about him being our player of the season, and I think I put a message in the group. I actually think him playing as a left centre back, he doesn't look as comfortable in those wider positions, trying to defend against wingers. I know it's that against West Brom, but he has been outstanding for us this season. And Sierra didn't look as stable. He had that one dodgy moment, didn't he, against West Brom, which made a great save for. But I think Asprilla in the 10 should be playing. Kone came in for him against West Brom, and I didn't think Kone. I don't know what do you think, Jacob? But I just think positionally he was suited in that 4-3-3 as one of the 8s, and as the 10, I just don't really think he knows whereabouts to be. And David has seen live when he came on against Leeds, he was anonymous, really.
Yeah, the warning signs were there for me. I don't know about you, Dave, but it really reminded me, and this is quite niche, but do you remember when Doucouré made his debut under Mazzari against Spurs? And he came on as this sort of like second striker off the bench, and he looked absolutely lost. Didn't know where to press, didn't know whether to be in the right position. Now, I don't think it was as bad, but against Leeds, I don't think Kone knew really what his role was. Now, whether that's down to the manager or whether that's down to him, I think he was so used to playing that 3 in midfield. He knew there was protection behind him. He knew he could bomb forward. He knew there was a Livermore or a Dele Bashiru covering him. I think when he's further up the pitch and playing as that number 10, I just feel he looks a little bit uncomfortable, Dave. I don't know what you've made of sort of the couple of performances in the last 2 games, but it's a completely different Kone than I think we've seen maybe over the course of this season.
Yeah, for sure. I think a recurring theme with Kone is his sort of the naivety of youth is still very clear to see, because he has moments where he's been really good for us, positive, scored goals, made things happen. You can see that there's a really talented player there. We've chatted a bit about him on the pods that we've done with Matt Furness from Opta. And, sometimes positionally, I think his enthusiasm gets the better of him and he wants to run around and make things happen rather than be in a structured system and do the right things at the right time. And yeah, maybe, I mean, again, we forget he's not, in the grand scheme of things, still not played that much senior football. Has he ever played in this system before at senior level? Maybe not. Which doesn't mean that you can't do it. Like, you can still take on instructions and should be able to do it still. But I think it's just what we've come to expect from him. Really, is he is hot and cold. He's still learning. He's still developing. He's still one of our most exciting players in the squad. Certainly one with one of the most potential. But I would always prefer to see Asprilla start. I think for me, I like it when he's in the team. Again, young, again, has to come in and out, understand all those things, managing his game time and all that. But when he's on the pitch, generally, I feel like we've just got a chance of making something happen. And so it happened on Monday against West Brom. He played a lovely pass out to Lewis for what was the second goal. Lewis puts a good ball in. We go 2-0 up. And I think he's just got that. I just have more faith in Asprilla's ability to make something happen than Kone, as good as Kone has been at times.
I think him and Dennis, Charlie, are the 2 players that you look at who are match winners. I feel whether it's an assist from Asprilla or a goal from Dennis, those are the two players that you feel that if they're on it, they can win you a game out of nothing, even if you're playing poorly. In terms of other individuals we wanted to mention, just from the couple of games you've seen in this system, Charlie, which ones have stood out to you? You said about Hoop maybe being a little bit uncomfortable in that left centre-back position, but someone who might have excelled is Deli Bashiru, because I feel like he's really come into his own recently. Are there any other individuals that you feel are excelling at the moment and not so as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Kone. You can see like his average positions here. He's actually deeper than Tom Dele and KMB against West Brom. So I don't know if that's supposed to be considering the shape, but I just thought I'd raise that. For me, I just think Tom Dele Bashiru, I keep banging the drum, but I just think he's been excellent. And against West Brom, I thought he was excellent once again. Like, he's so calm under pressure. He drives forward as well and gets us up the pitch. And I think now I was looking at it, and I'm sure Jacob, you'll do a famous keep loan sell video. But I'm actually thinking, if you look at some of our younger players that we've got a nice little spine there that we can kind of build around. When you think of Porteous, potentially Pollock, obviously we know Esprit is likely to move on, but I think Tom Dele Bashiru is really, especially since Cleves has come in, is really shown. And
it's been a breakthrough season for him, really, hasn't it? In some respect, like sort of properly established himself as a player capable of playing for us in the Championship week in, week out. Whereas at the start of the season, you weren't sure. He'd been out on loan, he'd had the injury, there was potential there, but you weren't sure whether he was one that in 2 years' time is going to be playing in League Two or could be playing for us or someone else in the Championship. And I think we've seen that he's good enough.
I think that what you said about the injury is key. Like, previous seasons under us, he struggled with injury. He went out on loan to Reading, didn't he? But yeah, he's been fit all season, and I think he's been really, really good.
Luon's in the comment section would start Kone ahead of Kiembe next to Tom Dele Bashiru. Kiembe's an interesting one, Dave, because I think Kiembe does the dirty work that no one sees. He might pick up a second ball, he might play the right pass, he might tick it over a little bit. If you had the toss-up between, I mean, as you said, Dele Bashiru has really come into his own recently. He's almost a guaranteed starter, I think. He's almost a more mobile Jake Livermore in that respect. Not totally the same, but can play that role and can get about the pitch a little bit more than Jake, because obviously he's 34. But when you look at Kone and Kiembe, would you actually drop Kone back and then put him next to Dele Bashiru or continue with Kiembe at the moment?
I like Kiembe. I think he's had a good season. Another player who maybe, kind of had to re-establish himself after his injury problems and stuff from the previous year and a bit. And, scored some nice goals. Lovely goal against West Brom. Lovely finish. But it's been a bit of a theme this whole season, hasn't it? This kind of, under Valerian and now under Tom, it's like the midfield has rotated a lot. Even when we had losers still in the mix, you're never quite sure which three or whatever, which combination you're going to have in that middle. And they've all had moments where they've all individually looked good, and they've all played in slightly different positions, in an 8, sometimes in a 6, in this system. So it's a bit of a tricky one, really. But I don't think Kiembe's done much wrong. And I like him, but I do have sort of these memories of him playing, last season when he was sometimes playing deepest in the midfield, playing as the 6, and he wasn't as good. He wasn't as good, as comfortable in possession, receiving it deep. He seems to be better if he is in an 8 or he's in a role where he can drive on a little bit, to be honest with you. But maybe this system, as you said, there aren't the sort of 2 8s like we have in the 4-3-3. So maybe having Kone back in could be good. I don't know.
Charlie, Kiembe, because as Lewis said, I mean, I'm disagreeing on that one, but he said that's football opinions. The reason I don't like him is because he does hardly any defensive work. I think he's better further up the pitch. I remember in Belgium when he first joined, a lot of people said that he was an actual number 10. Then he came to us under Ranieri, got turned into a number 6, then became a number 8 under Bilic. Then has gone back and forth. And it felt like actually at one point we had him in his best room, which I think is as a number 8 in a midfield 3. I think he excels in that position. Edu Kiembe, where do you stand on him?
Yeah, I definitely think he needs bodies around him. Like I do have visions of players kind of ghosting past him in transition. But I think one of the things that I just love about him is how good his ball striking is. We've seen obviously at West Brom, Preston, who we're going to touch on. Preston away, he scored a really good goal. And I think he's probably got the best ball striking I've seen out of our squad. I know there was a stat which the club put out saying Watford have scored the most goals from outside the box in England's top 4 leagues. He's added to that. I'm not sure if that's still correct, but I think it's nice. I think it's nice having him in the team. Like, I think Kone's got a much higher ceiling. But yeah, I definitely not as a 6. I think he needs to be as an 8 with someone else. But I do think he's been a lot more improved this season.
RS9, I would say Kiembe and Tom Dele-Bashiru, because Kiembe has not done much wrong and Tom Dele-Bashiru has hit some better form recently. There was another comment from HJ saying, loving the 3-5-2, but about fitting the players into it, but really want us to persist with it. Now, this is one thing I know you wanted to mention, Charlie, about the back 3. Dave mentioned about how this system suits the players that we have at this moment in time. I'm surprised that not that Valérien Ismaël maybe didn't use that a bit more often. I think one thing that's always said about a back 3 is if you have maybe not the best defensive unit, it does provide a bit more protection for some of the centre-backs. I think I mentioned on a previous show about Harry Maguire, how he was excelling in a back 3 at Leicester, went to United in a 2, and he kind of got a little bit found out a little bit. So back 3, where do you stand on that one? Because I think it probably is the best for the players that we have. And the way the Pozzos operate, you bring in the players and the manager has to find the best system out of it. I probably would say the back 3 suits us the best.
Do you know one of the elements why I think it suits us the best? Because of our fullbacks. I think our actual defenders aren't too bad. I think when we used to play the 2, I think it was actually the aggressive marking, which I did sometimes enjoy. But when you saw Porto galloping up the field trying to get tight to someone, I actually think if you looked at our numbers earlier on in the season, defensively, we weren't too bad in a 4. So I just think the 3 enables our wing-backs and gets the best out of Lewis, who we've seen a lot more improved. I know people are moaning about his crossing against West Brom. He did eventually get an assist for Rajovic, which I'm looking forward to hearing Dave's opinion on Rajovic after he notches his 11th of the season. And Andrews just looks great going forward, and he's got a bit less defensive responsibility. So I don't think there's massive difference between the 2 and the 3. I think it's kind of the principles within that. But I do think when we've got players like Pullock, Sierralta, even Porto, I do think they look comfortable in the 3. So yeah, I'm glad of it, mainly for it gets our fullbacks up.
On that fullback conversation, HJ says Ryan Andrews is a natural right wing back and Lewis is more suited to that, and or Sema when he's fit. And that is the one player that I do think we're missing down that left is Ken Sema. It's only, I think, when you see him out the team, I'm not saying he's probably hit the levels that we've seen before, but certainly he's that consistent 7 out of 10 that he gives you on the left flank. Now, one man that Charlie mentioned, David, is Rajovic, who scored on Monday. In the right place at the right time. I saw a heat map of his goals this season, and I think every single one was in the 6-yard box, or just outside of it, very, very tight. And
that's what he does.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right, Charlie? Because when you spoke to an expert who'd watched a lot of Rajovic, I'm not saying a Rajovic expert, but someone who had watched a lot of Rajovic, they had basically said he is a box striker, and you said, "Oh, is he like a Victor Gyökeres?" He said, "No, he's completely not like that. He's
certainly not.
Stay in the box." And he'll give him chances. And look, one thing we can't say about Rajovic, he's decent in front of goal. But Dave, I remember the last time we had you on, and maybe we've had you on since, you weren't particularly complimentary about his performances. And I think that's kind of a lot more fans are probably swaying towards that based on his link-up play and what he's offering away from the 11 goals he scored this season. What have you made of Rajovic now? Has your opinion changed since we last spoke to you on him?
I think I wrote him off as a donkey after seeing his first 10 minutes or whatever it was when he came on in that first game and he was announced as our new number 9. And you have to be fair to him and say 11 goals is a great return in his first season. He, for all his obvious faults, he's got the ability to finish chances if we supply enough of them to him in the right areas, and he's done that well. So fair play to him. It was interesting to see Cleverley bigging him up, speaking very positively about him and how much he wants to improve. I know Troy's been on with Do Not Scratch Your Eyes recently, talking about how he sees some, how he could benefit from some bit more dedicated sort of coaching and stuff. So, he's not a young player. He's not like an 18-year-old, but he's clearly got some capacity to improve and a willingness to improve. And hopefully he can do, because that's kind of where we are at the moment. We have to, unfortunately, we're not going to get these sort of £30 million signings for a long time, if ever again, at the moment. So we're going to have to make do with players that we need to get in and polish them up and make the best of them. So, but there has been times this season when he honestly looked dreadful at everything but finishing. And there's even been a couple of games where his finishing has been off as well. So as a footballer, in terms of holding the ball up, in terms of like winning the ball in the air in the middle of the pitch, he's terrible at it. There are a lot of things that he needs to improve at, but the fact that he's got 11 goals is still, testament, I suppose, to his work rate and his ability to not kind of have his head down when he has had games that haven't gone his way or when he has been out of the team or whatever. So, I think we've got to say fair play to him really for what he's done this season. And I'll be interested to see, next season, is he here? Is he going to be our main man? Is he going to improve? I don't know.
Jack did say the box was his office, to be fair, Charlie. We've got Rivich just popping up. He did say the box was his office, to be fair. I mean, Lou Orns makes the point. The funny thing, I don't think he's a good finisher. He's good at getting into the areas. Charlie.
Yeah, but like you said about those 6-yard box, like they're all tap-ins, and that's a skill in itself, like the positional sense. I can't remember if it was from the Rookery or the Watford Buzz I listened to, and they talk about physicality. Does he need to improve like strength holding the ball up? Jacob, do you think he can improve, or do you think he hasn't got the ability at this level?
The thing is, he's clearly got something, right? I'm not saying he's a complete striker. He's not an all-rounder, is he? If you're going to start him as a centre forward. But one thing, and Dave mentions Troy. I remember when Troy first came to the club, and I'm not Troy Dean is a better player than Rivich. But my point is, it was only until he worked with Zola that he actually learned how to finish properly. I remember there's one thing he said about he used to take long strides before he hit the ball. And when he learned, when he got coached by Zola, Zola said, you're taking too few steps. You need to be taking lots of steps before you finish. Now, I know it's just a little example, but the point is, until Zola's actually coached him one-to-one, Troy's finishing went up another level that season and obviously went on to hit, 20 plus per season. Now, I'm not saying Rivich can do it, but I think it goes back to the point that if he's coached properly and there's a manager that's willing to dedicate time to him, he still is only 24 years old. As Dave said as well, and Dave alluded to, we can't go in the market and buy a Gyökeres, for example, or I don't know, a player that's going to cost £5-6 million. We're not in that position. So you almost have to take the gamble and rely on a coach to take him to the next level. So I'm not going to write him off by any stretch. I think his all-round game needs to improve significantly. He clearly can put the ball in the back of the net. But I think it would be a case of, a manager just giving him a run of games and actually just riding it out for a period of time, because until he does that and maybe play through some bad performances, which are going to come. And we do have to mention, Dave, the fact that he went from semi-professional football to professional football in literally like a year. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I mean, the point is that he's pretty raw for his age as well.
Definitely. Yeah. And you can see that. It makes his goal scoring feats all the more remarkable, to be honest with you. John and Mike and Mike's brother went over to Sweden last October and saw a game in Stockholm between who are the two? I can't remember the two bloody Stockholm teams, Hammarby and Djurgårdens in Stockholm, and they were and the team that Rivich came from was sandwiched in between those two teams in the middle of the table at the time, and the standard in the top level of Sweden wasn't amazing. It was a 0-0 draw. It wasn't a great game. So he's come from, and he's come from even lower than that. He's played, even further down the pyramid in whatever in his earlier career. So like, it is a big step up, and it's such a strange one. It's such part of me can't quite get my head around it. How can a player who looks that bad sometimes have come away with 11, maybe more Championship goals this season? Like, it's remarkable, really. So, well done to him in many ways. I don't want to be too harsh to him, but I do think there's only so much improving he's going to do. You can get better for sure. Every player can get better with the right coaching, with the desire. And he seems like he's got the desire. But I don't think he's ever going to be a world beater.
Lou Orns, I think that's the issue. We shouldn't be taking the gamble on players like this. Gyökeres cost $800,000 3 years ago. HJ says, I think Rivich benefits with two up front, playing alongside someone rather than as a three as the lone striker. Ian says, years ago at school, we used to call it goal hanging. A lot of the older fans, I don't know how many are going to be watching today, but have mentioned about Ross Jenkins' first season at Watford, where he was pretty much all over the shop, and people have likened him to Rajvic in terms of some of his performances. One man before we move on to sort of the Preston game this weekend, Charlie, is Daniel Batman, and he's had a bit of a rocky road, similar to Rajvic since he's been at the club. Some highs and certainly some lows as well. But in the last couple of games, he really has stepped up. I always have said with Batman, he's a confidence player. I don't think it's any surprise, actually, that Cleverley, his mate, and someone he's played a lot of football with and has backed him in between the sticks, he's then gone on to put in good performances. I think we all know with Dan, if his confidence is high, he normally puts in some good performances. And to be honest, I think if it wasn't for him on another day, we probably don't come away with anything. Is that too far?
I don't know, because I've tried to watch back the goals that we conceded. Look, he makes a good save against Asante, but I do think that was kind of a really poor finish. Like I said, against Leeds, I just think his passing's got a lot better. He's really made it more simple. But yeah, I was looking at those 2 goals. He gets beaten at his near post. It does take a deflection, and it was hit really, really quickly. And then the Furlong one, it just didn't seem like top corner. I don't know if he saw it late. I don't know if it moved, but I don't know what you guys thought. But should he be doing better for any of those 2, Dave?
He got a hand to the Furlong goal, didn't he? And we haven't, for both of them, we need the angle from behind the goal to see sort of, have they moved? Have they got a deflection? We didn't really get the definitive angle on either of the goals. Usually shot stopping is his best quality, really. But, on those 2 occasions, he didn't say them. Whether he could have done better or not, maybe not. But different, but also similar to Rajvic, we know what Bachmann is. We know what his strengths are. We've seen enough of him. He's not going to improve. He's committed. He's club captain. Seems like a good lad. I remember I was on one of your Twitter spaces with him last season, Charlie. I've got, I don't want to kind of do him down, and he's had at times some real stick from Watford fans, bordering on over the top, really. I think at times, but he's not an amazing goalkeeper. He's a sort of 6, 7 out of 10 goalkeeper who'll give you his all, but he is what he is. So I think, and Hamer has done well when he's come into the team, but again, getting towards the end of his career, definitely past his peak, not going to improve. You need to be, if you're the recruitment team, you need to be looking at a long-term solution to, working within your means, obviously, to getting a new goalkeeper, really, because I don't think we've seen the problems with both of them, and it's just going to keep happening, isn't it?
Yeah, let us know what you think of Batman in the comment section below. Jack says Batman has done brilliant since Klebs has come in, silenced his critics for the first time in a long time. Luwan says, Charlie, that I don't think he could have done much, to be fair. My biggest issue was the lack of closing down from substitutes.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. We haven't touched on that. Both goals, especially the Furlong, the last one, I think it's Martins is just sort of jogging. He's just come off the bench. He's just sort of jogging, and there's Lewis is kind of dragged out wide by the fullback or the winger or whatever, and sort of there's three and Hoots there as well. 3 of our players just not closing him down at all. Sprea gets beaten really easily in the build up, and I do wonder. It's towards the end of the game, maybe they're knackered, all that, whatever. But is it a symptom of where we are as well? The players know that really, it's not like we're going to be putting our bodies on the line for every last second of every game, because we know we can't go up. We know we're not going to go down. We don't know who's going to be. We don't know if Cleverley's going to be here next season. So even if we're trying to impress him, we're not sure whether it's worth it. I don't know. Don't know whether there's a slight sort of, even subconscious kind of lethargy that will just naturally creep into performances in this sort of stage of the season.
Do you know what, Dave? You've actually teed that really nicely on Charlie's notes. He wanted to throw over a cliches question over to you. You've probably had enough of it after your tour. I know you've come down from cloud 9 from that one. What status would you give Watford's season currently?
Well, I mean, are we on the beach? I'm not sure. I think we've certainly got. Maybe we've got 1 foot on the sand.
1 foot on the sand. The flip flops out.
Say again.
Are we drifting? Is the season drifting or not really drift?
No. Well, I suppose we are sort of, really, aren't we? We're in no man's land in a way.
Flip flops are coming out of Preston. Looking ahead, Charlie, to that one. Preston 5 points off the playoffs, as we've mentioned a few times on this stream. Watford really don't have a lot to play for. We've hit that magic 50 point mark in the Championship. we're not going down, we're not going up. It is very much just riding the Tom Cleverley vibes into the end of the season. How are you feeling going into this one? Is there anything you'd like to see, maybe, rather than... Because the thing is, the result, obviously, you want Watford to win every match. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over whether, as long as we don't get absolutely smashed. But my point is, I'm more bothered probably about the performance than the result. And I know that's a cliche for starters, but I'm not too fussed about the result. I'd much rather us put in a really good display. For example, I'll be more disappointed. Put it this way: if we lost but played really well, I'd be more disappointed if we won and played crap. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I do think the home form's like an issue. Like, you got to feel for Watford season tickets and the season ticket holders in the last few years. I don't think we won in our last 11 in the league. So I think we're like 21st or something as well in the home form table. So not good enough at home, really. We're lucky with our away form. So, like, give something for the fans to cheer about. I'm quite looking forward to the game. If we can get any kind of performance similar to what we saw in the first half against Leeds. Preston lost against Birmingham last game. I know they're only 5 points off the playoffs, but I don't rate them too much. We obviously gave them a beating away from home. So just another positive performance, hopefully. Gets to see some goals. Like I said, I don't think we're going to lose any sleep either way, but we do want to see that positivity. And with the run coming up, this is probably the easiest game we've got left.
Yeah, we've got one of the toughest run-ins in the Championship.
It's a big game for them. Yeah, we do. I mean, you can't really say that this is necessarily like a winnable game on paper, really, because, as you say, they're ahead of us in the table. They could still get in the playoffs, but it feels like a game we should be confident about. If we play our best, we could win. Sunderland's the only other game that you'd look at with a similar sort of mindset. All the others look trickier. But it's a big game for Preston because they've actually got a game in hand. They're 5 points off the playoffs, but they've got a game in hand too. And they are, I think they've got to be, pound for pound, one of the most boring teams in England. But like, they sort of just hang around, don't they? They always seem to have a chance of getting in the playoffs. They've been like that for a few years. And maybe 1 year they'll do it, probably, and they'll get up there. They're surely one of the only, one of the more notable historic teams that have never been in the Premier League as well. Even though they came close, didn't they, under Moyes way back? But yeah, it's a big game for them. But I think one thing that is good for us at the moment, despite us giving up, giving away leads in the last few games, is that we are playing with maybe a bit less pressure, maybe a bit more freedom. We're trying new things, and I think you have seen that. The games have been enjoyable the last few games, even though the results, the Birmingham was a bit of a scrap. We needed to just get that win, get over the line. Cleverley's first game, but the last two games after the break, it's been notable, particularly the Leeds game at home. It was really fun game to watch. We didn't win it, but they're a great Leeds, are a superb team. Somerville was probably the best player in the league, or certainly right up there. So, West Brom are going to be in the playoffs. So, we can't be too downhearted, I don't think, with the last two results, despite you can pick it apart. You can nitpick and say, should have closed that down, should have done better here, there, and everywhere. But I think it's been quite fun. I mean, that's pretty much all we can ask for at this stage of the season. So it'd be nice if, like you say, Charlie, if we get ahead, put in a performance like we did at Deepdale, and we get a win to send everyone home happy. That's basically where we are at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a stark contrast the last couple of games until the end of Val's reign, hasn't it? So,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Gino's sitting there smiling, saying it's the right decision. But yeah, it's been enjoyable. Let's just hope we can go 4 games unbeaten under Clevs.
Yeah, home record, as Charlie mentioned, not to put a downer on it. We've not won in our last 11 league home games, and we're 21st in the home table. So, hope everyone enjoys Saturday. Team news wise, Ngaki and Semi are still out. Chatfordetzi has recovered from his hangover, and Grease is back fit as well. To be fair, I think he actually was genuinely ill. But Charlie put the video of him celebrating after Georgia qualified as soon as the team news got announced. I guess the last question, actually, before we do that, shout out to Adam, by the way. Caught my first live stream, love from Australia. What a man. Comment you on it. And the last question for both of you guys, just on Clevs. Clevs permanent. Dave, is that how many points out of Preston, Ipswich, Southampton, Hull, Sunderland and Borough for him to get the job, or is it irrelevant?
Don't know. It's a great question. Trying to, as we always do, trying to second guess Gino and trying to work out what he's thinking, where his head's at, what his priorities are, is the nub of the issue here. I think there'd be a lot of goodwill for Cleverley. I would have no problem giving him the job and having a punt on him. Why not? Because whoever we get in, we're going to be taking a punt on someone, whether it be someone from abroad, or if we went down the sort of Rob Edwards route and trying to got someone from lower down the leagues or whatever. But so why not? And we've seen, I've saw that Lou Warren's has been posting some stuff on Twitter about how many years coaching experience all the top managers have had in the Premier League and the Championship. And like, there's some notable examples of managers who've come in and done very well and haven't had much coaching experience under their belt. So Cleverley's been thrown in, unbeaten so far, relatively low pressure situation for him, quite a good situation for you to get the job in, really. So yeah, I think it's not necessarily about points. It's about, as you say, it's about performance, and it's about what they see on the training ground, whether he's really up to it or not. It's hard for us to say so far definitively, but I think we'll have an idea come the end of the season. But if he does get it, then it becomes serious. Once that interim tags off and you're the manager for the new season, it wouldn't surprise me if he did really well from now to the end of the season and he came back next season and struggled. Might not do, hope he wouldn't do, but that it is a different mentality immediately. At the moment, it's like there's no pressure. It's just give it your best shot, and I'm sure he'll want to be doing his best, and he'll see it as a shop window for him, even if he does leave to maybe go and get involved somewhere else, get another job somewhere else. But I think it is a big call to make. But really, as I said when Valerian was sacked, we have this habit, and I think it's sort of self-preservation as Watford fans, of getting annoyed, getting depressed about the situation, and then focusing on the positives. And at the moment, we're focusing on the positives because it's quite fun. We like Cleverley. We're seeing some interesting stuff on the pitch. But those problems are in the background still. The problem with Gino is still there. The problem with the finances long-term is still there. The parachute payments are gone. It's going to be tough next season, regardless of who's in charge. So we can't, I don't want to put a downer on things at all, but you can't get too ahead of yourself. We can't pretend that if Tom Cleverley has a good few games, everything's going to be rosy and he's going to be Kieran McKenna next season, because I don't think we are. So I wish him all the best, and at the moment I'd be quite happy with him getting the job. But I just think in 6 months' time we'll probably be back where we always end up, and that will be changing the manager. And unless Gino sells, ultimately nothing is ever going to change. And I think long term, that's what we need.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm at, Charlie. A lot of fans have said they want Cleverley to come in, but actually the sort of sentiment towards Cleverley is what's putting them off. As Jack says, I wouldn't want Clevs as a full-time appointment. I rate him as a manager, and I'm sure he will be great, but just don't want him to be sold down the river by the ownership. Now, we saw the reaction when Rob Edwards got sacked, and obviously inevitably went on to Luton and did what he's doing, which is getting relegated with them. But
we know what happened.
We know what happened. Charlie hates me riding him. But the point is, he's going to have a great career. I genuinely think the reaction, and this is very much down the line, as Dave said, 6 months' time, it goes a little bit sour. That could be, I say last straw. It feels like it's last straw every time, really, under Pozzo. But it would be, I think it would be toxic, really, because of the sentiment that Cleverley has with Watford, the fact that it's his club, the fact that he's given a lot to us as fans, the fact that he's stepped in now. I know it's a great opportunity for him, but it was a bit of a hospital pass at the time. Imagine if we had lost that Birmingham game. You never know. So where do you stand on this Cleverley situation? Because I'm quite keen, but I'm very much... I think Dave has just summed me up as a person, which is getting sucked in by anything optimistic.
To be honest, like as the days go by, I get more and more open to him becoming the head coach. I think, again, everyone's main kind of worry is Gino sacking him in the end. But whoever if Gino were to bring someone in the summer, he's gonna sack in the end. So, I just think we try to live in the moment. I think Dave's right to mention what's going on in the background, and that's always going to be the case under Gino. But as football fans, well, me personally, I just want to enjoy it while I can. So go to the game, and hopefully when we're playing well, enjoy it and not have to worry about that. So look, let's as they say with Dave, one game at a time. But let's hopefully have another positive performance against Preston. More goodwill for Clevs. Every time he does an interview, like I really enjoy it. He said about the mentality, and he didn't go into the Leeds and West Brom game hoping for 2 draws or 2 positive results. He wanted to win. So I think he's doing a really good job so far. Like I've been really, really impressed. Why not give it to him? I think any other manager is going to face the same problems, but it's just that thought of if it does go badly next season, but that could happen anyway. So I'm kind of just trying to enjoy it while we can.
Yeah, Sean says, I know it's unrealistic, but for Clevs to stay, I'd want 3 wins at least. I love the guy, but if he gets less than half of the possible remaining points, is he really who we want as head coach next year? Rob says he's an inexperienced manager who arguably hasn't managed under pressure. When the pressure is on next season, after a few games of results not going our way, will he get the time? My answer to that, Rob, is probably no.
I think you've got to take into account the fixtures, haven't you? I mean, I understand the point he's making there about the, you want to get more than half the points or whatever, but we're playing teams, Leeds, Southampton, Hull, Middlesbrough, teams that are vying for promotion and are going to be right at it. And, so I think you've got to take that into account, really. We have to see evidence on the pitch that he's capable. And to be fair, we've got 2 points against 2 of the leading teams in the division the last 2 matches. So he's doing well enough so far, and I think we will get a decent amount of points between now and the end of the season. I think we'll probably, we'll win a couple. We might get a draw here or there, and we'll see. But yeah, I think the point about the pressure is a good one. It's
Do you know what's interesting as well,
different kettle of fish next season. If you're the man, you've been trusted with the job, and all of a sudden you're struggling.
If you flip it as well, I know we said about the two last results, but someone said to me the other day where he said, well, yeah, let's flip it. We had a goal lead and we threw both of them away. Now, I don't agree with that, but the point is I'm very much looking at it in the lens of against 2 good teams, we've come away with 2 points that I didn't think we'd get. Some people are going, well, we had the lead. Why have we not stuck onto it? So look, it depends.
We're not a very good team. Well, ultimately, we haven't got amazing players, and football's 90+ minutes, and we are where we are for a reason. And take into account the context of where we are, take into account the ability of the players, take into account the ability of the opposition. That's what happens. Like, yeah, you shouldn't be losing games if you're 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go, but it happens a lot. And I think you can't be too critical of Cleverley. You can be critical of individual players in individual moments always, and he will be, I'm sure. But I think it's sort of fair enough. He's done pretty much as well as we could have hoped so far, I think, really.
A couple of comments just to wrap up. Mark says, feel it's a little too early for Klebs to step into the main role full time. Better for him to further earn his stripes as we want him around the club for as long as possible. Ian says, why haven't we done it against teams at the bottom so far? Hello to Wendover, who's catching us at the end of the stream. I think that's where we're going to leave it. Anything I've missed, lads? Anything you want to maybe mention, Charlie, that I might have missed off? I know there's always something.
Not that I can think of. No, let's hope for a rare win at Vicarage Road. I don't know if you guys are going. I won't be there, but yeah, it'd be nice.
I'm going to AFC Wimbledon tomorrow. Actually,
are you?
I've got some mates visiting, and we're going to that game for some reason. But it kind of tells you where I'm at with the team at the moment. Like,
days on the beach.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. I'm not cancelling any plans to get down to Vicarage Road. I think I'm going to go to the Hull game, but I won't be at the Sunderland game either. Yeah, I am on the beach mentally, sadly, not physically, but yeah.
But you know what? Just to wrap up, I think the one thing I'd say is that's now back-to-back seasons where we're ending it in that sort of feeling as a fan where we're like, we haven't got anything to play for. Where's the season going? Last season, although we were terrible, I still felt there was always like a 6-point gap. There was always a chance. Yeah. Right to the end.
When we were
I think Chris Wilder, that period, I thought it fizzled out pretty quickly, to be honest.
Yeah, it did, and how it's lovely to see him just completely unraveling this season as well. By the way, but it's funny. Your brain, Charlie, you're right. Like last season, I never gave up, even though it was obvious we were never going to do it. I never gave up, and even still, when we were 2-0 up, I was looking at the real-time table, going, "Oh, if we win this and we win the next one." night. You never know. We could win all the games. And then 5 minutes later, it's 2-2, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm an idiot.
Wendover says Clevs plus an experience number 2 for me. I think that's where we're going to leave it. Thanks so much to Dave for coming on, mate. Really do appreciate it. It's always an absolute pleasure having you on, sir.
Cheers, lads.
Absolute ledge. Charlie, you're not there Saturday. Are you visiting any other League Two clubs on your...
No, I'm not going to Salford. I'll just be watching loads of football from my sofa, but I'll be down for the whole game. So hopefully have some, maybe a couple of sumos with you guys before and after that one. And if anyone's about.
Mate, good job you're not going to Salford. They're playing away at Wimbledon tomorrow.
Oh. Go to Salford. Let me know how it goes, Dave.
Nice one, lads. Thanks so much to everybody who watched today. I know it was a bit of an earlier stream, but some really good numbers, actually, considering it was it's 3 p.m. on a Friday. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like on the video. If you did, subscribe to WD18. Follow the guys on their social channels. Follow Dave and all of his good stuff from the Rooker end of football cliches. Not that we need to be promoting football cliches these days, but there we go. Charlie, have a great weekend. Dave, what a man. And we will see you next time. Take care.